Welcome, the Assist Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and joining me today is the Assist esteemed UFC expert. He is my cousin, but also a great friend, of course. It transcends family bonds. It's Ryan Lucchesi to break down the most stacked UFC card we have had since we started doing these during the last, I was going to say last pandemic, but at the beginning of the pandemic when UFC came back. It's UFC 259 with Ryan Lucchesi. Ryan, how are you doing?
You're correct. It feels like last pandemic, still one and the same. And as always, I'm happy to be back here. I feel I need to come up with a new opener, though. I got to get more creative. I mean, we already know I'm happy to be back, especially with this stacked card that you alluded to.
I think it'd be funny if one day you're just like, yeah, this is kind of Zach. Like, I don't really care about Stipe, really, type thing. Even though I know you love him, that'd be funny. It'd be the throw off. I'd be like, great.
Yeah, that one we would have to cut short, make it like a 2-minute podcast, and then we can throw another real one out there later on. Like, sorry guys, I retired for a minute and then came back.
Well, that's what some of these fighters have done and will do again. I mean, we're both just waiting for Henry Cejudo to make that move, as he comments on everybody's Instagram posts. He wants to be back in the game.
Exactly. We'll cover it one day.
So, yes. So, I wanted to start, in the prelims, as we usually do. However, we're starting much deeper in the prelims, and for now, we're going to ignore the early prelims. We'll tie back later to those on this 15 fight card. And I will say we're recording this Thursday night. It'll probably be coming out to you guys on Friday morning. And right now, there's no COVID cancellations, but obviously the same-day COVID cancellations have become a thing with the UFC. However, the UFC seems to be trying to fight against that by having 15 really solid fights, that I recognize a lot of people. And so the fight I want to start, though, is Joseph Benavidez, seen last, losing the flyweight title rematch to Davison Figueiredo against Askar Askarov, an undefeated, I know he's a no contest I see here, but an undefeated flyweight contender there. It's let's see, get the rankings up. Benavidez still the second ranked flyweight. Askarov, the third-ranked flyweight. Where do you see coming into this matchup, how these two set up? Probably it could be for another shot at the flyweight title after the Figueiredo and Moreno bout coming up. Yeah,
this is going to be a great matchup. Keep in mind, Benavidez has lost 2 in a row to Figueiredo. The first one, controversial off a headbutt. The second one, he just got absolutely defeated and just beat up. He was on a podcast earlier this week, and he was saying he feels the pressure's off. He's found the love of the sport again, and he's just going to go with it. He had chased that belt for so long. It was just putting too much stress, essentially, on him. Now he's back into fighting for fighting, which it gave me some hope in him. Askarov, he's a man on a mission. He's obviously ranked number 3. He has 12 wins and 1 draw. 0 losses. So he's not going to pose an easy fight for Benavidez. I don't know. Has Benavidez lost it? Does he really have the love of it back? I can't say. And I want to see Joe win, so I'm going to call it with Joe. I'm going to say Benavidez takes it.
Wow. I mean, I hope he wins. I mean, because I'm looking now through his his record, and he's lost back in WEC, when that was kind of like a sister thing, right, alongside the UFC, back about a decade ago, he lost that bantamweight title to Dominick Cruz, who we'll get to in a little bit on this card. He lost the inaugural flyweight championship to Mighty Mouse Johnson, then worked his way up, and then lost again against Mighty Mouse. And then in the interim flyweight belt, he's lost to Figueiredo. Figueiredo missed weight, and then he got absolutely smashed by Figueiredo in the second matchup. I mean, he was knocked down, I believe, 3 times in the first round before getting finished by submission by Figueiredo. So he didn't look great. And I hope he wins, but I don't know. I think I might take Askarov here just as the unstoppable force, just to keep moving up in this division.
Yeah, if you look at Askarov's record, his last 3 fights, he draws with Brandon Moreno, which isn't a bad thing. And let's keep in mind, Moreno just drew with Figueiredo. So they're having their rematch set up for March. After that, he beat Tim Elliott, 3-round decision. And Tim Elliott is actually on this card as well. He's no slouch himself. what ranking. I'm not sure where Elliott stands in the rankings. Oh, yeah, he's number 12. So once again, he worked through two top contenders there, and then he beat Pantoja about 6-8 months ago. So he's gone through some big guys, big names, and that was another 3-round decision as well. I'm still going to stick with Benavidez. I just want to see him win, and I like him. And yeah, I'm rolling with Benavidez. He pulls it out, and it's going to show that the love for the sport has found him again.
There we go. Normally, I think some people could say that we agree too much on this podcast. So there you go. We're starting out with a disagreeing on the first fight of many we're going to talk about here. And that Tim Elliott-Jordan Espinoza fight is on, I believe that's the last early prelim, if the schedule holds for the UFC with potential cancellations. And that will be, Tim Elliott just always a banger of a fight, I will say. The next fight that'll be after the Benavidez fight is at bantamweight, and it is Son Yadon versus I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Is against Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips coming in at 8-1, and then Son Yadon holding the 14th ranked spot in the bantamweight division. Yadon is a slight favorite at -150. Where are you coming in on this fight?
I have to go with Yadon. After his last fights, what he's been able to do, he's just on a tear right now. He had the beautiful finish. I don't know if you remember or saw it yet, but when he had the last second finish over the Korean Zombie,
it
was a last second finish with his beautiful elbow. It was awesome. Since then, he's just on a big win streak, taking through everybody. He beat Alex Perez. Cody Stamann. Well, that was a draw, but that was a good fight. Stamann is not to be messed with. And then his last win was over, or his last fight, which was also his last win, was over Marlon Chito Vera. And that guy, he's just been cruising through as well. He recently beat Sean O'Malley. So Yadong isn't slouch, and he packs a lot of power. I'm going to take him in this fight.
Yeah, I agree with you, and especially when you think about that Chito Vera fight that he had in May of last year, that was at featherweight, and so this guy is a big bantamweight. He is a big guy. If you're able to go into that octagon, but beat unanimously someone like a Marlon Vera, who, like you said, stopped the Sean O'Malley hype train recently as well. That shows how big. If you're that big at featherweight, you're going to be a massive bantamweight. And I know we have weigh-ins still to come, but like that type of size translates. Right? It's like the difference between Poirier at lightweight, versus featherweight. It's just a massive type of difference that you're able to get shredded like that. So I agree with you. I'm going to go Yadong too. It's nothing against Phillips here, but I just think Yadong, they might have fed him a beast too much too soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess I should have mentioned I do like Phillips. Just I like his personality. He seems like a nice guy, good fighter, but that's not going to translate in this fight. It's Young's going to win by second round knockout.
There we go. We love the bold pick. We love the bold pick there. So the next fight then is the featured prelim, and it is a big one with the return again of former bantamweight champion, one of the most decorated bantamweight champions of all time, I would say, as well. I was picking through his resume pre-show. Dominick Cruz coming as a slight underdog to Casey Kenny. Casey Kenny, no slouch himself, coming in at 16-2-1 record. How do we feel about the Dominator coming back?
Dominick's back. I'm excited for it. We saw on his last fight, he was back. He lost that. It was controversial. He was standing up. The ref thought he was out. Big thing about it. Either way, he still lost. But he's coming back, and I'm excited to see his return. He has some... his resume isn't huge. If you go back, he fought May 9th in 2020, and that's when he lost to Cejudo. That was with 2 seconds left on the timer, and it got called off. That was the controversial. And then he had to go back to 2016 before his last fight. He's been dealing with injuries. However, he said that this camp was good, and he went through it injury-free. I'm hoping for a good performance by him. He's just so technically smart, and he has advantage because he announces the fights as well, so he gets a chance to watch those other fighters and break them all down. Casey Kenny, though, he's not somebody to be messed with. He's gone 3-0 in his last 3 fights. He's fought 3 times. He fought 3 times in 2020, so he's fresh. He's 2 of his fights went to decision. 1 was a submission. He's coming up. He hasn't fought the best of the best yet. He's still working his way up. Whereas Dominick Cruz has already been there. I think I'm going to go advantage to the veteran and give this to Dominick Cruz.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's almost like what the UFC sometimes tries to do this with their old veterans, right? They put them in a position to be a gatekeeper, basically. They did this. They've done this with Cowboy recently for a couple people, well, other than Connor, but still, the point is still there. They've done this with a couple veterans, even recently. The one's slipping my name, but it was very clear. It was. They did it with Max Holloway a little bit with Calvin Kattar. The up and coming guy, gave him the biggest fish you could have. But sometimes they want the fighter to serve as a gatekeeper. And a lot of times the veteran still comes back and wins, especially in this underdog type of setup, right? We've seen it before. And I think, no disrespect to Casey Kenny, like you said, Dominick Cruz at his peak is still is a top-level fighter. And I don't necessarily think he's at his peak now, like you mentioned. His last win came in 2016, 2017, when he defended the belt against Uriah Faber. Since then, he's lost to Cody Garbrandt. He's taken years off. He's also lost to Henry Cejudo, as you said, which was a little controversial. I didn't see that it was that big of a deal, personally, in that last fight in May. But then again, Cruz has been more active, right? This is more of a subjective thing. I don't think he's been on a commentary call in a long time, right? I could be wrong, but I think it's been a while. So he's been in camp, he's been focused, and I think, it's almost like the McGregor versus Poirier thing, right? Conor comes back, keeps taking years off type thing like that. I think maybe the more frequent thing, because Cruz did get battered in that fight. He needed some time off to recuperate. But I do think that's important now that he's getting in there, at least once a year, or once every 9 months, 6 months type thing to get in there and fight. And I think it's going to pay off in this fight for him to win.
Oh, let's hope so. I hope it pans out well for him.
Yep. So, transitioning now to the main card. This is any one of these fights could probably headline a UFC, fight night type thing. These are absolute killers. Which one are you most excited for before we break it down and get into it?
Man, really? This is the question you asked me. Which these? How can you not get up and out of your seat for any of these fights? There's Drew Dober. And that's our boy. We are the unofficial presidents, or we are the presidents of the unofficial Drew Dober Double D fan club. And you got to get out of your seats for him. But if we go out, take the bias away, I don't know, Megan Anderson fight, there'd be bias there. I guess I'm going to go with the Adesanya Blachowicz. That's the one I'm looking forward to most on this.
Yeah, that's an incredible one. You're right. We are riding or dying with Drew Dober in this fight. He's the biggest. Well, I almost said biggest underdog. He's not though. Outside of the Amanda Nunes fight, he is the biggest underdog on this main card. I also want to say the fight I couldn't think of that was the gatekeeper fight recently was Wonderboy Thompson versus Jeff Neal. Where Jeff Neal was rising and Wonderboy just put a smackdown on him despite being an underdog. Sorry, I just wanted to get back to that point because I couldn't think of it. It was bothering me. Regardless, though, this main card starts out with a light heavyweight bout of top contenders of Thiago Santos and Alexander Rakic. Rakic a slight favorite, minus 160. Thiago Santos coming in with a plus 135 underdog despite having recently fought for the title against John Jones, just a year and a half ago. What a first opening fight here. Rakic has been on a tear recently. I believe his last fight was against Anthony Smith, right? Or am I thinking of someone else?
No, I do believe you're right with his last fight being against Anthony Smith. Hang on one sec. He did recently fight Smith.
Yeah, he did. Okay.
Yeah, and that was his last fight. He got a win. That was a 3-round decision. I believe that was a banger.
Yes. Yeah, it was. I believe he came out and really showed out in that fight. So Rakic coming off that, the 4th ranked contender in the UFC. Santos holding steady at that 2nd ranked position with the loss to Glover Teixeira most recently on his resume after the John Jones fight, which was a very close fight, I should add. And Santos actually tore his ACL in that fight and still almost won that title fight. How do you see this one ending up?
Oh, yeah, Santos tore his ACL, MCL, PCL, whatever other CL there is in the knee. Yeah, so right. It was painful watching him in that fight. Every step he took, the knee wobbled, and he was still throwing kicks with it. And I've had ACL surgery. I've torn it before, and it's no fun. I don't know. I mean, the adrenaline he was feeling, hopefully that's how he made it through it, I'm assuming. However, Rakic, he has a win over Jimmy Manuwa, June of 2019. Then that was a 42-second KO. Then he has Volkan Ozdemir, and then he just beat up Anthony Smith as recently as August 29th. So he's the up-and-comer here. He's tearing through everybody. Those are some of the best of the light heavyweights around, and he's trying to make his name. He's trying to make his name against Diego Santos, that is. And that's going to be tough to come by. He did fight John Jones full 5 rounds, did lose that decision. I believe he would have won, like I said, if he just didn't blow apart his whole knee. Santos, previously to losing to Jones, he beat Jan Blachowicz, who we'll be talking about later tonight. However, and then he came back, beat Teixeira, as you said. However, he is 37 years older. He's 7 years older than the younger guy. So here's another gatekeeper situation, but he's seen the best of the best. The younger guy hasn't. As much as I want to take the veteran here, I think the power of Rakic is going to be too much. Rakic comes away with the victory. I just can't. I didn't know I was going to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, you know you're going to do it until you do it, right? So, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, Santos is still second ranked, right, in the division. But the problem is, like you said, his last win was February 2019 against Jan Blachowicz. Had to take the time off, after the John Jones injury, and then coming back and then getting losing in a submission to Glover Teixeira. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you're right. It seems a little bit gatekeeper-esque, right? Which whenever the gatekeeper himself is an underdog or herself is an underdog, right? That I kind of flag that a little bit. And Santos here on the money line play is a slight underdog, but it's not enough to make me bite. And the way Rakic just tore apart Anthony Smith with leg kicks and such like that in pinpoint striking and takedowns and smothered him on the ground, it shows a different versatility, I think, to his game that I think, maybe I know we're going to be talking about Jan Blachowicz and how the heavyweight division sets up in a second, or in a couple minutes, I should say. But, I mean, after Glover, who's won multiple fights in a row, right, put together a nice win streak here, and is the number one contender, if I'm correct in the light heavyweight division. Yeah, he is. I mean, Rakic could be right there with a win in this fight. And I don't think it's mistaken. I think he's probably those skills. My guess is that he would lose that title fight just because, sometimes you have to, it's almost like the Francis Ngannou thing, right? You have to go up and get to that point and realize, oh my goodness, I still need to do this and this and this, and then you can get back to that point. But I'm taking Rakic.
Yeah, Rakic. All right. I like it. We'll roll with him and see what he does.
The next fight features our boy, the assists own Drew Dober. We have adopted him.
Go Drew. Yes, I don't even recall how he became the unofficial fan club for him, but we put it together. We've been riding Drew Dober. He's just always been an underdog in his fights, and he's always come out on top. He's fun. He's exciting to watch, and I think he can be a real contender here. And he is he's ranked 15. He's ranked 15, and his opponent, Islam Makhachev, is ranked 14 in the lightweight division. So these are both newer guys still. They're on the cusp. They want to prove themselves that they are trying to earn a top 10 spot. And whoever wins this, they may not be in the top 10 after this, but they definitely have a top 10 fight coming up after this.
Yeah, I say I'd have to listen to past episodes. Maybe someone can chime in, on the comments or text me or something like that, how it happened. Because I think it was something about you texted me about him, and then we wrote him together like the first fight, and then it just became like he had a great win, something like that. Then the second time it happened, and it's all the same thing. I think it was the first time you mentioned him to me. It was like last February before even I was a fan, something like that. I don't know. There's something like that. We need to have to have the listeners parse through for us. But regardless, Drew Dober is a 3-1 underdog in this fight. I cannot pronounce his opponent, so I'm just going to say his first name, Islam. Minus 370 favorite, other than the Amanda Nunes fight that we'll get to in a little bit. It's the biggest disparity on the main card. What are our prospects for Drew here? Because Islam I believe, is part of Khabib's camp. And a lot of people rave about this guy. He's at 18-1. He's 18-1 right now, and the rave about him is possibly being a future champion of the lightweight division, which is not something I like to say. When this division is loaded with Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, too many good fighters, and then Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler now, etc., and Khabib himself, of course.
Don't believe the hype. We're all about Drew Dober. Don't believe the hype on Islam. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, he's very good. Obviously, his wrestling's 68% takedown accuracy. He has a 93% takedown defense. He definitely in the grappling department. He owns Drew Dober. There's no questioning about that. But in the striking department, Dober's better. A little bit. Not too much, actually. It's kind of looking rough, but I don't want to even believe the stats. I just know I'm all about Drew Dober winning this fight. Somehow he's going to pull it off. And the stats like that he has, it's no wonder that he's always an underdog. But we've seen him pull it off before, and I believe he'll pull it off again.
Yeah, I agree completely. And it's also not like I was just looking through Islam's recent fights. It's not like he's been fighting killers.
Well, he's still working his way up, though, so it'll be tough to get to the killers. And neither has Dober really too much.
Right, but I guess I'm looking. I guess I think I recognize more of a Dober's opponents, right? I mean, he lost, but he's fought people like Benyil Dariush at least before, who's been a great guy in the division, beaten Scott Holtzman before, who's done some noise in this division as well. So I guess I just recognize more names on Dober's list, which could come in handy here. And I mean, his issue, as you see, though, he has knockout power, right? Dober's last 3 performances have been KOs or TKOs, but you see his 2 recent losses, the aforementioned one, the Dariush in March of 2019, and then way back in December 2016, and even the one before that in June 2015 have all been submissions. So I hope that as he's been, getting on there and fighting and in camp and stuff like that he's been working on that ground game, and he probably would have known that, right, to work on his wrestling, work on that submission defense. And I don't know. I mean, we haven't talked about this fight yet, but we just saw this with Derek Lewis and Curtis Blades, right? A lot of times you want to take the wrestler, especially in a smaller cage like the Apex, right? But I mean, Derek Lewis is a whole other animal with his knockout power. But if you shoot and the shoot's coming, type thing for the takedown, I mean, Dober could land an uppercut. This could all be over. So I don't know what the lines are in front of me. I think Dober by TKO might be worth a couple units, because if Dober's going to win, I don't think it's by decision.
No, Dober's not going to win by decision. If it goes to decision, it's because Makhachev kept him on the ground the whole night. If they go to the ground, I don't see Makhachev keeping them there. I see him submitting Dober. As you said, last 3 losses all by submission. However, if Dober can pull out the Black Beast game plan, stay on the feet, if he's upgraded his defense against the takedowns. But if you're in Khabib's camp, there's no camp out there that's teaching takedown defense to stop you. So the more we talk about this, the more this doesn't look good for our boy. Unless he can keep it standing. But I'm still taking Dober. That's just the bottom line.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you too. And I also think the key to, we talk about, Khabib's camp and stuff like that. But the thing is, Khabib is so inevitable almost because he has 5 rounds to work on you, right? Here, Islam only has, 3 rounds. So when Dober does hurt him, which he will. I mean, Dober's right hand is so powerful. Then he can follow up and pursue quickly. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to hold back and reserve for rounds for the next takedown attempt, type thing like that. So I think that's one key in his advantage is that, it's a shorter. Right, he's been training for 15 minutes, so it's shorter. He'll be able to withstand that and then power punch his way out, and can steal a couple rounds with a knockdown or something like that.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Let's just I'd rather we just keep it standing the whole time and score points with the knockdowns. Just keep him off of you. Do not get taken down.
What is the Dober by KO number?
Dober by KO. Oh shoot! All right, now it logged me out. Now I'm slacking here.
Never mind.
I'm not pulling my weight here. I'm sorry. I'm back in now.
Oh, there we
go. All right.
Apologies
to all the listeners that had to hear that. If we go check out Drew Dober, and I'm pulling my lines from Barstool Sportsbook. I live in Michigan. If you live in a state that has Barstool Sportsbook, I recommend that.
It's a big win. It's a big win for the state of Michigan.
Yes. Oh, it was great. Dober by KO, TKO, or DQ. Oh, or submission is plus 400. But Dober by knockout is plus 500. That's good. I mean, you're getting Dober at plus 275 to begin with, which is great. But if you'd like to want to get a little more specific for some larger money, Drew Dober by KO plus 500.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's a decent play. You just sprinkle a unit or two on there as you try to pick through who's going to win some of these championship fights that we're about to talk about. One thing I wanted to ask you about that made the news in the MMA circles and such like that, especially with casual fans, was the knockout the knockout by Derek Lewis of Curtis Blades, and then the two subsequent follow-ups. Punches that he had that were heavy shots, obviously. I saw a lot of buzz and ridicule about this, and I didn't really understand it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like how people were talking about how unnecessary the hits were?
I understand what you're talking about from the fact that it made some buzz. I don't understand why he yelled, "These are from Herb," and he blamed those two shots on Herb Dean. I'm not sure if he was thinking Herb should have stopped it earlier or because there was a shot or an eye poke that wasn't called earlier. So maybe that's what he was getting at. But, I don't know, it was a hell of a knockout. Yeah, you saw him go back, but, I mean, this isn't the type of man to lay off. All right? This is your job to fight. Now, we saw when it was Rosenstrike versus Alistair Overeem, we saw Overeem get knocked down. He wasn't completely out, but Rosenstrike turned around, put his hands in the air, and Overeem was standing back up. If Rosenstrike would have advanced, it could have carried on the fight a little longer, but he's supposed to. That's what your job is to do. And because he didn't advance, it influenced the referee. Here, the Black Beast was just doing his job, and that's you advance on the fighter until the referee pulls you off. You don't walk away. You don't turn around. And we all knew he was out, but I don't know. It's just his job to advance, and that's what he did. I'm not mad about it.
I agree with you. I mean, you have to fight because there's been spectacular times where guys suddenly come to and they're still fighting, they're still defending, and I agree with you. You have to finish it up. And my guess is on what he was saying with the Herb Dean thing. It looked to me, I mean, I couldn't see it based on the camera angle, but it looked to me when I rewatched the fight that somebody in Blades' camp might have said something. And then Lewis turns to them and was like, no, those are Herb Dean's fault. Maybe saying that he had to come in sooner because Lewis is always going to finish it off. So that was my interpretation of it. But you also may be correct with the fact that there was an eye poke. And maybe it was a little bit of a revenge thing as well.
No, I don't know. I'm not sure if he was talking about the camp or what. Yeah, I really don't know.
Regardless, Derek Lewis is probably next in line at a title shot, which is hilarious. To me, he just keeps on winning. Just keeps on winning.
It's what he does. I hope. I wonder how the John Jones is going to affect it, but I would like to see him in a rematch with Ngannou because that would be a whole lot more fireworks than it was in their previous fight.
Yeah, that was a really weird first fight. I remember because you'd think those two guys throwing hands, just the heaviest shots, probably heaviest power punchers on the whole UFC roster. I would imagine, because even the champion Stipe is more of a precision guy as opposed to a strict power puncher. But for that to happen, Ngannou would have to lose, though, against Stipe. And then John Jones might fight Stipe next. Who knows? You're right. John Jones does throw a big wrench into those plans, for sure. For sure. So our next fight we were going to talk about is at bantamweight. It is for the bantamweight title, and the odds are dead even, at least on the ESPN app. They have both Piotr Jan at -110 and Aljamain Sterling at -110. And Piotr Jan's second defense of the bantamweight title, I believe, right? Or no, he just won the belt.
Yes, Piotr Jan. He is going to aim for his first defense of the. No, this will be his second. He won the belt from Faber. Wait, no, he didn't. I just completely lied. I apologize.
It's okay. I was trying to think of the same thing. I thought the same thing, that he won it from Faber.
He beat Faber to earn his shot at the belt, and then he beat Aldo for the belt.
Right. Okay, there we go.
Now he's going to defend the belt.
Certainly his most dangerous fight to date, I would say.
Yeah, he's going to try to defend the belt, I should say.
Yeah, because you're on the Sterling train.
I'm 100% on the Sterling train, so I'm all about that. Piotr, he's been on a big rise. He's been dominant. The way he's just beat the people and his opponents. I mean, I know he has some decisions, but he's also just a savage in there. It's scary. And for all the fighting, I think Sterling's going to come out there and work him over. Sterling's key is going to be to press him up against the cage and get on his back. I mean, Sterling does have the striking capability, but I wouldn't stand and try to bang with this dude.
Right, and especially with what we saw in his most recent fight against Corey Sandhagen, where he submits him in a minute and a half from, it was a standing rear naked choke, correct?
Correct, and you're referring to Sterling now.
Yes, for Aljamain Sterling, sorry. So, because you were saying he shouldn't stand in there and bang with Piotr Jan.
Exactly.
Looking through Sterling's last 4 fights, going back to September 2018, submitted Cody Stamann, who's a ranked bantamweight, beat Jimmy Rivera, who we just saw, I think it was last week, right, against Pedro Munez. Beat Correct. Pedro Munez, both those decisions, and then submitted Corey Sandhagen, who we just saw KO Marlon Moraes with a insane leg kick. So, I mean, that run of 4 fighters is better than anything Piotr Jan has done. I will admit.
Yeah, he's just been through the gauntlet. He's been destroying the gauntlet, whatever they put in front of him, and these are just he's been through it. I think it's going to come down to the grappling. I think he'll just be able to force his game plan over Piotr better. And I'm also kind of a fan of Matt Serra and his podcast on. He's the jiu-jitsu coach for Sterling, so there's a little bit of bias from there too. So that's where I get it from. But I mean, this guy, he's just too good to be overlooked, and his nickname's the Funk Master. How can you not cheer for somebody named the Funk Master?
That's true. The Funk Master is an incredible nickname, I will say. That is a fact. So, I mean, the game plan is jiu-jitsu, right?
Has to be. If you want to be, it's jiu-jitsu to get Piotr Jan to the floor.
I wonder, just on the feet standing, Jan's going to have that advantage. And I just think in this case that power's going to come through, and I don't know. I think, possibly Sterling gets through and maybe in the first round is over eager, tries to chase a submission or two, and then tires himself out, And Piotr, to me, I mean, granted, we haven't seen him on the ground yet, so this could be one of the things. It's the reason why I'm going to keep picking Usman until Usman loses, is because I just haven't seen holes in that fight, right? In his stance, which, by the way, Usman, goodness, in that last fight, my
ridiculous.
The Terminator. The Terminator is what I said when I was watching that. But regardless, Piotr Jan I haven't seen any holes in him. Granted, he's fought a past his peak Jose Aldo and a past his peak Uriah Faber in all his last 2 fights. So this could be the fight, I will say, where he could get exposed. I mean, this fight is a 50-50, Yeah, like I said, betting line on ESPN, and I think it's right there. So I'm not truly certain of it. I'm just going to go with Jan because I haven't seen Jan get too hurt in the UFC. He's just been on the front foot. He likes to control the center of the octagon. He likes to push forward, and I think that might be an interesting thing for Sterling to have to try to counter with him trying to maybe pull submissions from his back or something like that. Maybe he wants to go to the ground early type thing. I mean, he's going to want to, but keep it there type of thing like that. I'm really curious stylistically how this fight's going to play out, and it could go a lot of different ways. If we're doing Barstool betting line here, I think this is a stay away. I don't know what you think.
Well, Barstool betting line definitely. It is the -110 for each of them. That's how close this thing is. I'm not going to stay away from anything.
That's true. Unless you're like Ryan.
Yeah, sorry. That's just the gambler in me. I want to take this on. And actually, the line is moving into Petr Yan's favor. He's now -115 favorite to Sterling's -106. So it looks like people are starting to put money on Yan, which is good for me because I'm going to take Sterling. And, Sterling is going to – Sterling's I'm looking at these rankings right now, or his stats. His stats versus Peters in striking aren't too far off. They're not bad. As far as significant strikes, Peter's at 5.6 while Sterling's at 4.82, and that's in a landed per minute. Although Sterling lands 50% of his compared to Peters' 46, and he absorbs less. So I'm feeling better about the strikes than I was earlier. This just favors me even more. Let's go Sterling. He's going to wear that belt out at the end of the night. We got a new champ going back to New York City. Actually, he just moved to Vegas, but he's from New York too right now.
There you go. So that's what you have. I'm going to take Jan. I just think he's going to break Sterling's will at some point over the 5 rounds. I could really see this, though, being a 5-round war, both on the ground and on the feet as well.
If it goes 5 rounds, I'm thinking it's Jan who's going to come out with it.
Right.
He'll just, yeah. So I think Sterling needs a finish.
Because judges also score jiu-jitsu weirdly a lot of times.
Yeah, because they don't understand it.
Yeah, the MMA judging, it's a disaster a lot of times. So you're right, Sterling probably will be chasing that rear naked choke or something along the line towards the end of the fight should it get there. So the next fight we have, the co-main event, is featuring the women's MMA GOAT. As you may guess from a women's MMA GOAT, it's the biggest line I think I've seen in terms of favorite underdog. Amanda Nunes, according to ESPN right now, you may have a slightly different number. I have it as an 11-1 underdog over Megan Anderson, who's 11-1 favorite, my bad, versus Megan Anderson, who's a 7-1 underdog in this featherweight bout.
Yeah, on the UFC page, it's Amanda's a 12-1 favorite. However, on Barstool Sports, they have Amanda at a -1,000 and Megan Anderson plus 650.
I mean, so that's a 99.99% win chance, right? If you were going to do the money line converter to percentages, that's crazy.
You can't get any closer.
Wow.
It's just almost, yeah. There's a reason for that. She's the lioness. She defends her den, and she just added another cub to her den. Her daughter, Reagan, is 5 months old. She's coming in here. I've seen her on the Embedded series on YouTube. She just looks happy. She talks about how happy she is now, more happy than she was before having the child. And I'm scared of her. I'm scared for Megan. Not for Megan as a fighter, but for Megan as a person, because I have a huge crush on Megan Anderson. My buddy introduced me to her when she was in Invicta. She's been our ride or die ever since, kind of like you and I with Drew Dober.
Got it.
We are all about Megan Anderson, the Aussie, the challenger. She's taller than Nunes is. However, so is Cyborg, and we saw what Amanda did to Cyborg in 45 seconds. Nunes has fought tougher competition. She's fought in multiple weight classes. she's defeated Ronda Rousey. She's defeated Holly Holm. She defeated Chris Cyborg. There's simply no reason to go against Amanda Nunes unless that's because you're just a fan of Megan Anderson. I want Megan to win, and for the money, yes, I may put something on Megan, and I think Nunes is going to win it. It's you can't go against this woman. She's just too damn good in every facet of the sport. I know her last 2 fights have gone decisions, but before that, she had the first round knockout of Holly Holm, the first round knockout of Chris Cyborg. She a 5th round knockout of Raquel Pennington. She beat Shevchenko. I'm blanking on her last name.
That is her last name, Valentina Shevchenko. Twice.
Valentina, first name, yeah. She beat Valentina the Bullet Shevchenko. This woman is the lioness. She is the GOAT of the females. She's probably top 5 of UFC all time for a damn reason. I'm sorry, Megan. I want you to win. I'm gonna pick you, but smart money says go on Nunes.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like if you take the gambler's perspective, a 7-1 underdog in MMA it would be irresponsible not to put money on that because all it takes is one punch, especially when you're at women's featherweight which is, for people who don't know, the biggest weight class you have in the UFC for females. I mean, they're the power punches. All Megan has to do is catch one punch on Nunes' chin, and then all of a sudden that 7-1 pays out, and that's that. So I don't blame you on that one. But you're right. I mean, I try. People, sometimes I say, like, the women's MMA GOAT, and they're like, who's that? And I say, it's Amanda Nunes. And they're like, oh, I haven't heard of her. And I was like, just trying to understand how good she's been. So she's on a 10-fight win streak, with the majority of those being the belt. She's, as you mentioned, some of her fights. I'll just go through.
I don't want to cut you off. I'm sorry, but 2 different weight classes she fights in too.
Yep.
She has 2 different belts currently right now. I just wanted to point that out just so nobody gets confused. She has 10 wins between the 2 weight classes.
Yes, you're right. So she's recently been more at featherweight than bantamweight, but still rules over both divisions with an iron fist. She's beaten Germaine de Randamie twice, has defeated Shevchenko twice, although the second one was probably the closest fight she's ever had. That was a split decision, but that was 4 years ago now. So beating Shevchenko twice, who's ruling over the flyweight division, much in a similar manner that Nunes is, ended Ronda Rousey's career, submitted Miesha Tate, the Pennington knockout, like you said, Chris Cyborg knockout, Holly Holm knockout, and then Felicia Spencer, UD decision, who is probably one of the best featherweights other than herself. And I mean, that is an unassailable run of greatness, beating every other woman, like even Holly Holm, people know because of her knockout of Ronda Rousey. Well, she knocked them both out, or beat them both, sorry. Like, that is incredible.
Yeah, so, it's just, I mean, you can't, kind of like, until, like you said about Petr Yan, and like you said about Kamaru Usman, you can't go against her until you see some sort of a weakness. There's just zero reason to bet against her.
Yep. The only time she's been seriously injured is against Shevchenko, and Shevchenko is probably the only person that could beat her on this planet if they were to do that super fight. Oh my gosh, that would make so much money right now. But Nunes is fighting at 145 right now, so that's not applicable. She'd have to drop down at least to 35 to make it work. But like, the only woman on the planet that could probably beat her right now that we know of is she's already beaten twice. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's her closest competitor, and for how dominant Valentina is in her weight classes and in her respective divisions, yeah, that's kind of crazy to think about. So, but I'm hoping Megan can pull something out that we haven't seen before, use her length to her advantage, somehow outstrike her, and get the win. Use that distance.
Yeah, she's going to be 6 foot, or she is 6 foot, so that is 4 inches taller than Nunes. Now it's kind of interesting seeing that at the press conference today. I just saw pictures. I didn't watch the press conference for the UFC 259, but the height difference was stark, I will say. So like you said, like we were saying earlier, if Megan catches her with a hook, that's a 7-1, 8-1 payout depending on where you are. Like it's a good payday there. I mean, that'll probably make back all the losses on the prelims that people will try to do. So, if you think about it,
are you trying to imply something about my prelims?
I didn't say you.
Is that what's going? Yeah, I wouldn't blame you. Given my luck the past little bit, yes, I think you may be onto something.
Well, the prelims this time, this fight card are stacked, which we'll talk to. I know you've been itching to get some of the lesser known fighters out there to the broader public audience. But we first have to talk about the main event. This is a super fight. Jan Blachowicz, light heavyweight champ, I'd say somewhat unexpectedly, rising up. I mean, if you think about the options that have been at the light heavyweight division who have fought recently for the belt, John Jones obviously holding it. Thiago Santos almost beat John Jones, and then Dominick Reyes almost beat John Jones, and then took a savage beating at the hands of the Polish power, Jan Blachowicz. Blachowicz may not be the most marketable, which is probably why Adesanya maybe is moving up right now. But regardless, he's a power hitter. He's a big 205 light heavyweight. And then we have someone who has not lost. And he's been rocked in some fights before. The Kelvin Gastelum fight comes to mind for that one, that 5-round brawl many years ago. But Israel Adesanya since then has been on a tear, tearing through Robert Whittaker, tearing through people like Paulo Costa and such to get to the point that he is now going to attempt to be one of the few double champions in UFC history. He would be joining Conor McGregor, joining Daniel Cormier, Amanda Nunes. I think that's the entire list. I could be wrong, but I think that's the entire list. Cejudo, that's right, Henry Cejudo. But yeah, I think he would be the fifth if he were to do this. And the first one I do middleweight, light heavyweight, which is a big difference. It's 185 to 205, 20-pound difference. What a fight.
I mean, the fact that you said we're getting to the main event, I couldn't believe that we weren't done already given all the fights we've covered. And now you add this on there for the topper. Holy crap, This is another one of those power versus precisions. We saw how Israel proved that precision beats power in one of his more recent, his last defense against Paulo Costa, and we saw his precision overtake his power. But this isn't light heavyweights now. You're moving on up. You can't take it lightly. You're no longer in the middleweight class. He has taken on Paulo Costa, Robert Whittaker, who are heavy-hitting guys. Kelvin Gastelum, you said, rocked him. So I wonder what Jan's power can do to him. Polish power is no joke. We've seen it sit guys down. We've seen it knock guys out. One of the keys here for Jan is going to be pressing him up against the cage, trying to wear him out with wrestling, and getting him to the ground and possibly taking him out via ground and pound. I think Adesanya's speed, as far as his head movement on his defense, is going to be too fast. So in order for Jan to land a strike, it would have to be pressed up against the cage. Back to on the feet. Once again, Adesanya's just too fast. He's in and out. He is he's a defensive fighter in the sense. He likes when his opponent advances, and that's when he gets the big KOs. That's how he beat Robert Whittaker, was with Robert Whittaker advancing. We saw when he fought Yoel Romero, neither of them really advanced. Yoel kind of played defensive, and so did Adesanya, and that was a slow fight. Jan's not like that. Jan is going to advance, which is going to play right into Adesanya's fight plan, unless Jan can get to the ground.
Yeah, by the way, did you see a little bit of an aside to this fight? Did you see Costa talking about how he had a full bottle of wine or whatever?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, what a piece. I don't get it. Just own it, dude. You lost. You got embarrassed. You're upset. Your ego's hurt. Get over it. Start fighting again. Boost your ego. And prove that it was a fluke and it shouldn't have happened. But don't talk about it.
Yeah, so I feel with the Deontay Wilder. I don't know if you watched that fight when he blamed his costume going into the octagon for his loss, or into the ring, to fight Tyson Fury. Like, come on.
Heavyweight champion blaming a 45-pound costume.
Yeah.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah, I agree. And I didn't really like. I don't know. Costa's a massive middleweight, but I was definitely. I mean, we had a big not a big get together. We had a under 12 person get together for that card because some of my female friends, as we talked about, fell in love with Paulo Costa and his muscles. Because how could you not? But I mean, I was team Israel Adesanya the whole way for that fight, and obviously it bore out in the second round with a KO. So I just think Costa's got to go. I really hope Whitaker beats him in April, but that's another aside. There because I like Whitaker a lot. But regardless, as you mentioned, Adesanya is the precision striker, and he's a minus 240 favorite. Jan Blachowicz, at least to me, is a 2-1 underdog as I'm seeing here on these odds. Odds vary wherever you are. And I think you're right. The thing is, Jan loves to advance, and I mean his power is insane. Even with his leg kicks, if you recall, with the Dominick Reyes fight, Reyes had such I don't even know what it was. It's almost like it had already scabbed up on his stomach from a body kick that Blachowicz had ripped on him that hurt him, and eventually, obviously, Blachowicz put him out. So it's going to be really interesting to see if who establishes their range first, right? Because like you said, Adesanya's a defensive fighter because he hides his attacks very well with his counters. He's a counter puncher, but he does it in a way that thinks that when the fighter comes in, like a Blachowicz or a Costa, they think they're safe. And then Izzy still crushes them, right? And I mean, and that's where his nickname, the Last Stylebender, comes from, because he truly is, somebody who's one of the most unique strikers, I think, in the sport. I don't think if you tried to copy Adesanya's striking plan, right? I mean, I don't think you could really do it. And of course, with him and his city kickboxing guys there, right? Like the three other guys that are there, or two other guys, excuse me, right there, the New Zealanders, like you wanted to mention. It's going to be really interesting, I think, to see how this goes in Vegas.
Yeah, it's Izzy. When this first came out, I was on Izzy all the way. But pardon me, I'm starting to like Jan. I like Izzy already. I'm starting to like Jan. Oh man, this is just another tough one. Where do you go? We've seen his movement we've seen just how fast he is, and I think he's still going to be fast. He's going to come in as the lighter fighter. He's thinking he's going to come in at 193 pounds,
which is light.
Well, considering the max weight limit is 205, Jan's going to come in at 205 and step in the ring at probably closer to 220-ish, while Izzy's going to be stepping in the ring at 193. But his speed, I just keep going back to that, and his precision. We saw how he knocks people out with his precision. That's his whole shtick. That's what he claims. And I think he gets it done that way, unless Jan gets his hands on him. If Jan can get his hands on Izzy, push him up against the fence, similar to what Piotr Jan has to do, but push Izzy against the fence, take him down for ground and pound. I see Izzy walking away with the belt.
Yep. And what do you think Costa weighs in that? Because that man, it's hard to believe he ever makes 185 on the scale. So I wonder if he comes in like 210-ish. You got to think maybe the next day. I don't know how much weight you can gain in a day, but I mean, he was so much bigger than Adesanya as well.
Yeah. No, I think. I don't want to skew the numbers. Yeah, so you always weigh in what the weight needs to be. So he weighs in at 185, and then in the next 24 hours, he probably puts on at least 20 pounds, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's a big boy. At one point before the fight, I think he was up to 230, and that was like on his Instagram or something.
Yeah, because he looks like a heavyweight when he's not in training camp, or they think that. Even like guys like Poirier, they balloon up anyway before they get into camp as well. But yeah, I was just wondering, because you're right. I mean, that is going to be the difference, right? Because Izzy's never taken a punch from someone as big as Jan, right? So that's going to be the interesting debate there. I think I like Izzy, but I don't like I like Izzy to win, just straight up as a pick, probably by knockout. But I don't like the prices. I don't like the 2-1. What I would personally do, I don't know if you could look at this number. What's the under 5 rounds? What is the within distance? And using that maybe in a parlay or something like that. Because if you look at the game plan, right? For this to go 5 rounds, there'd have to be some grappling, right? It'd have to be the perfect mix of grappling from Jan and then counter striking from Izzy. And I just think eventually, if both those things start happening, one of them's going to get knocked out.
To go the distance, it's not going to go to the distance. There's no way. To go the distance is plus 162, and to not go the distance is minus 225. Over 1.5 rounds is minus. Once you get to over 2.5 rounds is minus 148, but over 3.5 rounds is plus 110.
Okay, so they're saying round 3.
Yeah, round 3 essentially is what they're calling it, is once it goes plus money. And yeah, the odds makers don't see it going. I don't see it going over that. I would maybe see the over 2.5. That puts you at 2.5 minutes and under in the second round, obviously. But yeah, no, this is going to end in some sort of a knockout fashion. It does not go the distance.
Yeah, probably most confident I think I've been on a fight doing that, being a knockout from either one, honestly.
Yeah, Izzy's KO is plus 130. Jan winning by a KO is plus 333.
Okay.
So, wow. I mean, drop a couple bucks on both.
Yep, see how it goes. So, yeah, I mean, what a card. And you mentioned, or I was saying earlier, you mentioned pre-show about the city kickboxing tradition for Adesanya. We can you can talk about that then, and then kind of transition to other guys you want to watch out for the prelims, because if you made it this long in this show, you're watching all the fights. So let's hear who Ryan's. We gotta name this segment something, but like Ryan's prelim guys or something. What do you have for us?
All right. Well, on Ryan's prelims, we have as Zach said, Izzy, he fights out of city kickboxing. Which is, breaking news. Michigan basketball 2020-21 Big Ten regular season champions. Let's go. Go Blue. They just beat Michigan State 69-50. Sorry for the interruption, but I had to. Let's go Blue.
Yep, that's right. Go Blue. Beautiful. I mean, they haven't won the Big Ten title in a while, the regular season one at least. So,
and they are straight up, too.
Yep, Juwan Howard. So we're going to be doing some NCAA tournament content coming up. Don't worry about that one. Don't worry about that, folks. It's a tease.
Love it. Yeah, I'm just getting y'all warmed up for that. All right, back to the fight. So, Israel Adesanya, Auckland, New Zealand, city kickboxing. These guys roll deep. The last time Izzy was on Carver's Polo, they had 3 fighters as well, and on this card they have 3 fighters. Those 3 fighters are Carlos Ulberg, who is fighting on the early prelims. Then we have Kai Kara France, who is on the prelims. That's a flyweight fight. And then, of course, Israel Adesanya. If you want to parlay those 3 together, I would do it. They're all large favorites, but city kickboxing is just too damn good. They're producing some killers out there. I would take them in all their fights, all 3 of the night. Stick on city. Then we have that, and that Kai Kara France is right before Joe Benavidez. So try to get that on, see Kai, and then you can watch Joe and the rest of the guys fight. In the early prelims, Tim Elliott, Jordan Espinoza. Tim Elliott's ranked number 12. This Jordan Espinoza isn't. This is a flyweight fight. That'll be fun. Tim Elliott, he's just fun to watch. There's, as I just said, the Carlos Ulberg versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. Nzechukwu. If you can pronounce it, good for you. That's going to be a light heavyweight fight. So 205ers right there. Maybe some future contenders. Sean Brady, Jake Matthews. That'll be fun. Jake Matthews, I know the name. Sean Brady, I don't. Euros Medic, he's the second fight of the night. He's lightweight, and he just recently won on Dana White's Contender Series this past season. And I'm hoping for a good fight out of him. Those are just kind of my pay attention to, my earlier picks, and what you want to watch on the prelims.
Yeah, the Medic fight, I remember the Contender Series. He was very impressive in his performance there, so that's a good shout-out. And I believe for the city kickboxing point that when they've brought 3 guys, of course with Adesanya being one of them, to the fights, that they all 3 have come up with a win the last couple of times they've done it, right?
Yeah, all 3 of them, when they roll deep like this, they come in, they go home 3-0.
Yeah. So that's definitely something to watch. As you said, a parlay could be fun with the three of those, especially with them getting decent favorite odds. And yeah, I agree. I think Tim Elliott, always fun. Just his hair, his style, just always fun to watch. And yeah, looking out for all the fights. I will certainly be there at, I believe it's 6:00 Eastern time. So I'm at Central time right now. So it'll be 5 p.m. Central time, and all night. I mean, we're gonna be we'll be watching fights, watching all these different things. When you said the breaking news a couple minutes ago, I thought a fight got canceled. And I got really scared. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I apologize for the scare there. No fight canceled that I know of yet. Just Michigan winning.
Just Michigan winning, which we always have to celebrate with the poor sports teams that we have up in Michigan, unfortunately. But Ryan, always a pleasure to do this with you. Ton of fun, and I just hope you have some good beer, and we have great fights on Saturday to relax to.
Well, thank you, Zach, and hopefully I can be sending you a couple cheers texts on some wins, some gambling wins. That's what I'm here for, but. Hopefully, good fights. We're topping it off. Izzy, Megan, Sterling, all the belts change hands. We'll just call that. All the belts change hands. I'll leave you guys with that.
There you go. And I'm on the Izzy, Nunes, Jan. Mine's much more boring than yours, isn't it? Of course, Drew Dober and Alexander Rakic in the main card. So there we go. We'll see how we do. I wonder how we actually do with our picks. We should go back and grade ourselves, but maybe I don't want to.
I'd rather not grade myself. I do with my picks. They're not the best. So if whatever I say go against me.
There you go. Don't actually take the opposite of everything we've said in this podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Zach.
Of course.